Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. We have come to the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is a kind of a summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita. In the first few verses, Krishna is answering a question by Arjuna. What is the difference between sannyasa and tyaga? This gives Krishna an opportunity to come back to explaining about karma yoga. And he takes many of these topics and answers them from sattva, rajas, and tamas angles. We will begin with verse number 3. Radha Ravi, please.
Am I audible, sir?
Very clear. Go ahead.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. This is chapter 18. This final chapter 18 has begun with Arjuna asking Krishna, what is the difference between sannyasa and tyaga? Despite Krishna's clear teaching and assertions in previous chapters, Arjuna continues to harp on sannyasa. He wants Krishna to say, once sannyasa is good and he will have an escape route to run away from this war. But Krishna is very smart. He never replies to this question directly at all. He first talks about different viewpoints on this subject. We saw in Shloka 18.2 that some scholars opine that renunciation of action is sannyasa, whereas giving up fruits or rewards of action is tyaga. In other words, renouncing kamya karma is sannyasa and renouncing karma phala is tyaga. Here, kamya karma refers to 2, 3 and 4 of 5 karmas. The first karma is vihita, or it is also called as nitya karma. Second is kamya karma. Third is nishiddha karma. Fourth, prayaschitta karma. And last one is naimitika karma. According to these wise people, a sannyasi has to give up kamya, nishiddha and prayaschitta karmas and can continue to perform the other two nitya and naimitika karmas. Now let us look at the shloka 18.3, which goes like this. त्याज्यं दोषवदित्येके कर्म प्राहुर्मनीषिणः यज्ञदानतपः कर्म न त्याज्यामिति चापरे. Let us look at word by word meaning of this verse. Eke manishinaha, some thinkers, prahuhu means declare, karma tyajyam, action to be renounced, dosavat means as evil, chapare means whereas others, iti means that, yajnadana tapah karma, activity in the form of yajna, charity and austerity, na tyajyam, should not be given up. Some thinkers declare that action is to be renounced as evil, whereas some others declare that activity in the form of yajna, charity and austerity should not be given up. Here, Krishna is bringing in two schools of thoughts. One group of scholars talk about Sampurna Karma Tyaga, that is, giving up all karmas including Nitya Karma and Naimitika Karma, because the entire karma is defective or evil. A sannyasi can focus on spiritual pursuit totally only if he renounces all karmas. They argue that all kinds of karmas and duties are accompanied by stress and strain. Hence, it is better to complete all the duties and then take up Vedanta, as these karmas will be an obstruction to spiritual path. Whereas the other set of scholars strongly feel that Nitya and Naimitika karmas should never be given up, while they have no objection to giving up other three karmas, namely Kamya, Nishiddha and Prayaschitta. They recommend to continue with service-oriented actions and duties towards self, family and society. These duties also represent Yajna, Dana and Tapas. So, Panchamahayajna, which is duty towards self and family, Dana or charity, which is duty towards society, and Tapas, which is self-discipline, are all a must as per these wise people. Finally, to summarize, one set of people are telling giving up all karmas is sannyasa, while the other group feels giving up partial karma is sannyasa. Coming verses will tell what exactly Krishna stands on this. Hari Om, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Radha. That was a very clear, crisp, and a brief explanation of these verses. This was your opening chance. Please continue to do so.
Thank you, sir. Very sure, sir.
We'll go to
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Raksha. Raksha, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The fourth verse of 18th chapter. Nischayam shrunume tatra tyage bharata sattama tyago hi purusha vyagra trivida samprakirtitaha. Padartha Bharata sattama, O Arjuna, shrunu me nischitam. Listen to my verdict. Tatra tyage. This is regarding renunciation. Tyagaha hi. Renunciation is indeed samprakirtitaha. It is declared, it is said to be trividaha, threefold, purusha vyagra. O Arjuna. In this verse, Lord Krishna addresses Arjuna by two names. First one is Bharata Sattama. Sat is a noble person. Sattamaha is noblest. It is in the superlative degree. Bharata Sattama is the noblest among the descendants of Bharata Vamsha. And the second name is Purusha Vyagra, tiger among men. That is a great one among human beings. This is said because renunciation is only for the brave-hearted. Now coming to the verse meaning, Lord Krishna, by saying, Me Shrunu, he tells Arjuna, may you listen carefully to my verdict. This is with regard to sannyasa and tyaga. The most important declaration of verdict is implied in this verse. There is no difference at all between sannyasa and tyaga. According to Lord Krishna, they are synonymous. He disagrees from the previous group of people who differentiated these two. They differentiated by saying renunciation of karma is sannyasa and renunciation of karma phala is tyaga. According to Lord Krishna, sannyasa is equal to tyaga and tyaga is equal to sannyasa. And both means renunciation. Then the next question is, what is the definition of this renunciation? Lord Krishna says, this is threefold. Tyagaha, trividaha, samprakirtitaha. Now Arjuna is curious to know the three types. The three types are sattva, rajas and tamas. But before defining these three types, Krishna wants to make a general important remark. He says, before understanding renunciation, you should know one basic principle. This basic principle is discussed in the next two verses. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Raksha. Again, a very crisp, brief, to the point, and a complete explanation of this verse. Dr. Vishwas.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Yagna Dana Parakarma Natyajyam Karyameva Tat Yagno Danam Tapaschaiva Pavanani Manishinam. Let us look at the word meanings. So Krishna is continuing from the previous verse, and he is telling that yagna, dana, tapa, that is activity in the form of yagna, dana, that is charity, and tapa, austerity, na tyajyam, should not be given up. So he is not going towards the sannyasa marga where you are giving up everything. Tat karyam eva. These three things has to be performed. Those are yagna, dana and tapaha. Why should you perform? Pavanani, that means it purifies manishina, to the people who are following. Again, here we come back to the multiple times that Krishna has told what are the uses of a karma yoga to us. Karma yoga is very much important for us for purification of the mind. Here he clearly uses the term Pavanani Manishinam, telling that these three things are very essential for us, because by doing these things, you purify your mind. Let us consider the previous verses in which there were two schools of thought. One of them telling that renunciation of all the actions are required, and the other thought is that only the fruits of the action needs to be renounced. Let us take an example of a caterpillar. A caterpillar is initially free to move around. Then at one stage, it finally decides that it has to be at one place, and it starts to build a cocoon around. So once the cocoon is built and the caterpillar is there inside the cocoon for quite some time, then it breaks open the cocoon and it flies away from that. What I'm trying to bring in? So initially, when we are doing all the karmas and living in the samsara, we are like the caterpillar who is totally free. Then we start renouncing the fruits of the action by creating ourselves a binding. This binding here is the cocoon that we are trying to form around ourselves. Even though forming this cocoon around ourselves looks like a binding agent, actually it is helping us to purify our own minds. Once we purify our minds and we go more and more towards jnana, then we achieve the wings. Then we achieve the knowledge which will help us fly. By achieving that, we are able to break this bondage and we are able to fly high. So, coming back to the verse, activity in the form of yajna, charity and austerity should not be given up. It has to be performed necessarily. Yajna, charity and austerity are purifiers to the devout. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vishwas. Another very clear explanation. None of these verses have too much of content, so you have dealt with appropriately. We go to Vani. Vani, the next verse, please.
Rubhyo Namaha, Harihi Om. This is the sixth verse of the chapter 18. Etanyapitu karmani sangam tyaktva phalanicha kartavyaniti me partha nishchitam matam uttamam. So as Doctor said, the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is a summary of the whole Gita. So the teachings of the initial chapters are repeated here. We cannot call it as repetition also because this teaching is so critical, so important. Krishna says it again and again for us to understand properly. This sixth verse is a continuation of the fifth verse. Here, Shri Krishna is reinforcing the vision of Karma Yoga. Etanyapitu karmani. Etani karmani refers to the three karmas or actions of the previous verse which Dr. Vishwas explained. That is yajna, dana and tapa. Api is with these, there is something else which will be explained or discussed in the next few verses. Coming back to yajna, dana, tapas, the rituals, charity and the religious disciplines are nitya naimittika karmas. Yajna is the Panchamaha Yajna, that is the Deva Yajna, Pitru Yajna, Rishi Yajna, Manushya Yajna and Bhuta Yajna. And Dana is the charity, which is explained, we have already studied all these. That is Deshe, Kale, Patre, where to give, when to give, to whom it should be given. And Tapa is Sharirika, Manasika and Vak Tapas. So all these we have studied in the previous chapters. So here Krishna is again reinforcing the vision of Karma Yoga. So here what he says is, what is the attitude with which you do all these yajnas or the karmas? Sangam tyaktva phalanicha. That is, you have to give up the sangam. That is, you have to give up the attachment. That is, attachment is ego or the ahankara. So always, whatever actions we do, we are always self-centered. We always do it, like usually we perform everything, keeping ourselves as a center. So we have to give up that. Ahankara should be given up. And it should be performed without any attachment. That is Ishvararpana Buddhi. So we have to do all the karmas with Ishvararpana Buddhi, dedicating it to a higher purpose or a higher goal. It should be treated as a sadhana, not as a goal. And palanicha, and we should be never attached to the fruit of the action also. So karma pala is punya or papa, whatever it is. So we should never desire to or get attached to the punya or the papa also. and accept the fruits of the action as prasada. So here he is telling Krishna is telling Ishwararpana buddhi and prasada buddhi. Kartavyani, that is, it has to be done. There is no choice. It is our duty. According to our scriptures, Yajna, Dana, Tapas has these three religious disciplines give us two types of punyas. One is a materialistic punya and the other is a spiritual punya. The materialistic punya, we all know it gives us a material prosperity like house or car or jewelry, whatever. It is a good life. It can be a good life in this birth or in the next birth or whatever. It can be in any janma. And the spiritual punya is when these karmas, yajna, dana, tapas, is done with an Ishwararpana buddhi and fruits of the actions are accepted with prasada buddhi, it purifies the mind. When it purifies the mind is clear. We have chitta shuddhi. With chitta shuddhi, we have viveka and vairagya, samadhi, sampatti and mumukshatvam. That is sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. When sadhana chatushtaya sampatti is there with us, then we are eligible to go or get the knowledge of self-realization. So this is inner transformation. So internal benefits like amanitvam, adambitvam, which is discussed in the 13th chapter. So we get all the internal qualities. And Daivi Sampat also is gained from this, which is explained in the 16th chapter. So with purity of mind and internal transformation, we'll be eligible to get the self-knowledge or self-realization. And here Krishna says actions are secondary. The intentions and motive behind the action is very, very important. Swamiji also clearly says one more thing is we get another type of punya, that is it provides us with a competent guru, which is very, very important for our spiritual journey. And Nishchetam Mata Uttamam. Lord Krishna declares, this is the clear message. This is my opinion and this is my advice. So you must do these karmas. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Vani, for not only explaining this verse, but also giving us the importance of Karma Yoga and how Karma Yoga can give us both material benefits and also spiritual benefits. One of the great spiritual benefits Karma Yoga gives is Jnana Yogyata, and another great benefit is the benefit of a guru. And that is why Karma Yoga is so important. We are so blessed to have a good guru with whom we are able to proceed our learning in a very systematic manner. And that is all happens because of Karma Yoga. We go to Neeta. Neeta, please.
Sir, I would be doing.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Madhu, it is Madhu.
Niyatasya tu sannyasah karmano nopapadyate mahottasya parityagaha.
Audio is faint. You may have to come a little closer.
Is that fine, sir?
Yeah, better.
Okay, yeah. Niyatasya tu sannyasah karmano nopapadyate mohattasya parityagaha tamasah parikirtitaha. Meaning, renunciation of obligatory action is not proper. Its renunciation out of delusion is said to be tamasic. Just to give a background to this, having completed the 17th chapter of Gita, now we have entered into 18th chapter. This is the final chapter of Gita, which is also the biggest and consisting of 78 verses. Lord Krishna started his teaching to Arjuna from 2nd chapter onwards. The entire first chapter was devoted to prepare the ground in which Arjuna, the soldier, was converted into a disciple, and Krishna, the diver, was converted himself into Gitacharya. And here, Lord Krishna uses the well-known method of teaching, the method being Sankshepa Vistarabhya Bodhana. The first giving a bird's eye view of what Gita itself is, then going into the detail with a capsule view of every one of the detailing. And in spite of all this elaborate dialogue, Arjuna manages to have a doubt again. And now, this is the last question raised by Arjuna, which is the seed of the entire 18th chapter. And the Arjuna's question here is regarding sannyasa or renunciation. But what does Krishna do? Instead of giving his traditional or conventional definition to sannyasa or renunciation, Krishna gives a new definition. Karma yoga itself is the real sannyasa. Meaning, the karma yoga, the way of life which followed by a grihastha is sannyasa. In this particular verse, 18.7, Lord Krishna talks about tamasic sannyasa or tamasic tyaga, while Krishna talks about 3 sannyasas in detail, which is tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic in the following verses. Krishna, keeping in mind here an unprepared person and hence giving this teaching. And the order in which he treats these 3 is tamasa sannyasa, which is the 7th verse, followed by rajasa and sattvika sannyasa in 8th and 9th verses. So Krishna says, what does he say here? Arjuna, remember, karmanaha sannyasaha na upapadyate. Never renounce these 3, as we heard earlier, yajna, dana, and tapaha, basic spiritual disciplines. They are called niyatam karmanaha, which is compulsory karma. Swamiji beautifully narrates this through an example. Just as nowadays they say physical exercise is compulsory for every human being for maintaining a good physical health. And if somebody argues, what will happen if I give up my regular practice? We would agree that consequences will not be suffered by the doctor, not by the newspaper, nor by the magazine, but will be suffered by me alone, one who has given up. Similarly, I give up yajna, I give up dana, tapaha. Krishna will not suffer, nor the Vedas are going to suffer, nor the Gita itself, whereas I will have to pay the price dearly. And therefore Krishna says, niyatasya karmanaha sannyasaha nopapadyate. Krishna continues saying, some people do not practice them because they do not know this value. Just there are many illiterate people who do not understand the importance of this exercise. This is the awareness that's needed to be created. And therefore, Krishna says, there are some people who renounce them due to ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of this value. So, mahatasya parityagaha. There are some people who leave them out of delusion, out of ignorance of their value. And ignorance is caused by which guna? Tamoguna. So what is tamasic renunciation? Renunciation of basic religious activity out of the sheer ignorance of their importance in maintaining my spiritual health is called tamasa sannyasa. As we move further into the chapter, Krishna continues to elaborate the rajasic, sattvic sannyasa. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhu, for giving a little overview of the beginning of this chapter. And from here, we will see karma from all the 3 angles, beginning from tamas to rajas to sattva. Dr. Sachin will explain the rajasic part of karma. Dr. Sachin, please.
Hari Om. So, if we see the entire learning of Gita, and if it could have been summarized anywhere, it is so beautifully summarized in these 3 verses. And as we have seen the Chin Mudra, which is explained so well by Shamalaji, and repeatedly we know about it. So we have to take divorce from the 3 things, the tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. So even sattvic also should not be attached to us as the pole vaulter. We should leave the pole and then only you go to the other side. The other side is nothing but the shreyas, not the prayers. That is the moksha part. That's what we are learning from Bhagavad Gita. Coming to this chapter, this verse 18.8, this goes, dukkha mitteva yat karma kaya klesha bhayat tyajet sakrutva rajasam tyagam naiva tyaga phalam labhet. As Madhuji clearly explained, the tamasic renunciation. Here, Swamiji explains that some people might be understanding the complete Bhagavad Gita. They might be even good in explaining about it. But when it comes to practice themselves, they may not practice. Like we know, there will be some physical strain or stress in any activity which can keep you healthy. But just by knowing that we can be healthy by doing activity, but also having the fear of doing that exercises will never get you to the fitness. Similarly, here in Kaya Klesha Bhayahat, means Kaya means the body, Klesha means the fear. So Klesha means the activity, strain. And the strain of the bodily stress is the fear which one has. And the Rajasic personality will always, the Rajasic renunciation also will not take us to the moksha part. So sir, can we go to the previous slide, please? So what Krishna is answering here is, even if you try to give up the things where you are doing the activities, which always I feel, I've asked many times Dr. Hegde sir, that sir, can we just renounce and go to some place, ashrama, where we'll not have any kind of activities to be done? And sir has always answered me that even there we don't know what kind of tyaga or what kind of stress we'll have. So here, if this type of fear is there, that I should, when I want to do some activities, the strain of the activity, you will never reach to the moksha part. Naivam tyaga phalam labheta. Even this renunciation of Rajasic activity will not give you the benefit of having moksha. This is the essence of the verse. And in the next class, we'll learn about the Sattvic. What is the real Sattvic Tyagam? So one has to leave from Tamasic, then slowly go to Rajasic. But you have to leave the Rajasic Tyaga also and go to Sattvic. And finally, I think, if I'm right, you have to leave the Sattvic nature also to go to the moksha path. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sachin, for telling us about the Rajasic part of karma, where a person is doing action, but doing out of fear. And so that is why it is not the best way to do. And we will proceed with this from the next class. As we have finished a little early, we will get ready for a quiz. Why all this quiz? As I said, we are seeing the beginning of the end. And this year has been a great opportunity for us to study the Bhagavad Gita like never before. And every time we used to come up to the 18th chapter and somehow it used to fizzle off. This time we make a commitment that we will study the 18th chapter like this. Every Krishna will take each verse, it will be a Rajasic, Tamas, Sattvic. So we will see all the angles of various topics. And then there will be a final completion around verse 66 where Sri Krishna concludes the teaching of this chapter. Right now, the objective of this quiz is this. If you are given any verse of the Bhagavad Gita, you should be so familiar with it that you should be able to explain it to someone. So how we will go about it? The previous quiz was all about Arjuna's questions. Now I will take Sri Krishna's answers to these questions and create a quiz about it. This is the first question that comes in the second chapter, where Arjuna asks Sri Krishna, Stitak prajna ka bhasha, samadhista keshava, stitadi kim prabhasita kim asita vrajeta kim. Which means Arjuna becomes interested to know how a person who has realized Brahma Vidya, how does such a person speak, how does he sit, how does he walk? And to which Sri Krishna gives a brilliant answer. This answer goes like this: Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogathan atmanevatmana tushta stita prajna tu uchyate. A stita prajna is one, and the key word is atman evatmana tushtaha, one who has realized who he is. He is so complete in himself that there is nothing left. Prajahati, he has given up all the desires that arise in his mind because he is now attained to a state of Purnatva. Now the rest of the Sthita Prajna portion is only an elaboration, and there are a beautiful set of verses. I have chosen one verse for the quiz today, and that verse is this: Ya nisha sarva bhutani tasyam jagriti samyami yasyam jagriti bhutani sa nisha pashyato munihe. What is the meaning of this verse? Open to anybody.
When the Gnani is awake, the illiterate will be sleeping.
Good, good.
When the illiterate is awake, the Jnana is revels in his self.
Very good, Sukanya. Where you gave the punchline. Anybody else would like to add anything else to about this verse?
This was my verse. Can I try?
I will ask you. You hold on. Other than Dr. Anupama, anybody else? Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutani. Sukanya has given us. So I want someone else to give a little more elaboration on this verse.
Sir, Vishwas,
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Nitya Sarva Bhuta, that morning when everyone is awake,
Yeah.
the Mune are actually not finding that to be enlightening. But in night, when we are telling about night, we are talking about the three stages. That is Jagruti, Shushupti, Nidra, and Jagruti. So in the night, during the Shushupti is the stage where we are aware of everything, there where we become one with everyone else. That is why Mune, who are the enlightened ones, they know that the time when we are actually awake, when we are one with everything.
Yes, in a way, right. That means, as Sukanya said, there is a day-night difference between a realized person and all of us. Good, Vishwas. Anybody else?
Sir, this will speak about the Pratibhasika Satya, Vyavaharika Satya, and Paramarthika Satya.
How does all the three Satyas come here?
One who comes out of Pratibhasika Satya, who is in Vyavaharika, Pratibhasika will be, it was Mithya. Just like that, one who comes out of Vyavaharika and goes to Paramarthika, this Vyavaharika will be a Mithya. So, people who are enlightened or Sita Prajnas, the Pratibhasika Satya will be a night and this Vyavaharika will be a day. Like that, the person who has gone to Paramarthika, all the Vyavaharika Satyas and Pratibhasika will be a night and Paramarthika will be the day. That's what I think.
Okay, Venkatesh, thank you. I will ask Dr. Anupama to explain this because she has got this verse. Can you explain this, Dr. Anupama? I want you to explain in a way that if anybody is given this verse, you will remember the key points and then you will never forget this for the rest of your life. Over to you.
The key message is Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. So, for a Jnani, the only Satyam is Brahma. Whereas for an Ajnani, the Jagat is Satya and Brahman is not known at all. Therefore, the perspectives are diagonally opposite. A Jnani lives in the Paramarthika zone and an Ajnani lives in the Vyavaharika zone. So, what is Vyavaharika and real for an Ajnani is really unimportant and worth ignoring for a Jnani because he has understood the Mithyatvam. Ultimately, Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya for a Jnani and the reverse for an Ajnani.
Would you want to use the slide and explain?
Yeah, in the slide, I have used the triangular and the binary format. So for an Ajnani lives in the triangular format of Jiva, Ishvara and Jagat. So for him, the Jagat is real, life is about acquiring and God becomes a means for acquiring what he needs from the Jagat. Whereas for a Jnani, the only truth is Brahman and he has realized he is Brahman and nothing else matters. Okay. So that is the binary format.
Do you want to go to the details of some of these words?
If anybody is interested.
No, sorry.
Tasyam Jagriti Samyami. Okay, please.
Samyami.
Yasyam Jagriti Bhutani. Explain again.
The Yasyam are the people who live in the triangular format, the Ajnanis. Yeah. We, the ignorant people, believe in Jagat being real and are awake to the Jagat as if it is real. Whereas for a Jnani, the Jagat does not exist as a reality, but only as a Mithya, only for Vyavaharika purposes, but there is nothing for him to benefit from Jagat.
All right.
Sir.
Yes, go ahead. Who's that?
Sir, Ullas.
Go ahead, Ullas.
Sir, just borrowing Swamiji's examples, that both a Jnani and Ajnani are looking at the ocean, but the Jnani's view is that he's looking at the waters, and the Ajnani's view is that he's looking at the waves. So the Ajnani is kind of awake to the waves and sleeping to the water, and for the Jnani, he is awake to the waters and sleeping to the waves. So he's looking at immortality, everything is non-perishable, and the Ajnani is looking at perishability. So that's the difference between Jnani and Ajnani.
See, this is the key to a Sthita Prajna. Why do we get so upset when things go wrong? Because we give a lot of importance to my body, mind, and the world. The more importance I give to these three things, when things go wrong, I get upset. For a Jnani, the body, mind, and the world, everything is mithya. And therefore, even though he sees things which are not okay, the intensity of the upset, that is why a person is more in a state of samatvam. So that is the whole message. So Yanisha Sarva Bhutani, what is night for all of us is day for an enlightened person, and the reverse. So Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya is the message, and if you are able to see the Satyatvam of yourself and Mithyatvam of the world, you immediately become a Sthita Prajna. So this is the very beautiful, but it is a cryptic verse, it is a difficult verse. You need a person like Swami Paramarthananda to explain this to us. So we'll proceed to the next question. The next question involves a little bit of explanation from me. It'll please be patient. This is the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, begins with a series of questions. Now I want you to recap the end of the 7th chapter or even the beginning of the 7th chapter. In the beginning of the 7th chapter, can someone ask what is the question Arjuna asked in the beginning of the 7th chapter?
Mattaha parataram nanyat Mayi sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva.
Is that Arjuna's question? I'm asking what is the question Arjuna asked in the beginning of the 7th chapter?
No question. Maya saktamana partha.
No, there was no question.
Krishna's answer.
There is no question.
There was no question. So Krishna straight away, it is a new Shatkam. Krishna straight away begins by telling, I will let you know my real self, my higher self, Jnanam, and my lower self, Jnanam, and my higher self, Vijnanam. That is how it begins. And then he describes his lower self and then higher self and so on. And then he says, by the end of the chapter, and he says, you know, if you follow all this, what I've said, you will know my true nature, but then he plays a trick. He uses 6 technical terms. And those 6 technical terms, Arjuna does not know what that is. And those become the question for Arjuna in the beginning of the 8th chapter. Kim tad brahma, kim adhyatma, kim karma purushottama, adi bhutam cha kim proktam, adi daivam kim uchchate. And adi yajna katam kotra desmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katam nestu niyatam abhi. Now, so these are the questions. Now, I want people to give me answers. Now, Krishna begins by answers. What is Brahman? What is the
conscious
answer?
principle.
Conscious principle.
How does Krishna answer that?
Aksharam Brahma.
Very good. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. That's how the chapter begins and that's how the chapter gets its name. Now, what is Adhyatmam?
Conscious principle at individual level. Conscious principle at individual level, sir?
Very good. Conscious principle
Jiva.
at individual level is
Jiva level.
Which is the same as Brahman. What is karma here in this chapter?
Samashti karma.
Very good. The law of karma from a samashti angle. What is Adi Bhutam?
Panchabhutas.
Hiranya Garbha.
No. Adi Daivam is...
means all the Jivatmas. The Samashti Jiva.
Wrong.
Adi Yagna.
Panchabhutas.
Adi Yagna is Brahma.
Virat.
Yeah, go ahead.
Adi Bhutam is Virat Prapancha.
Yeah, the perishable, experienceable world is Adi Bhutam. Very good. What is Adi Daivam? Somebody already answered.
Hiranya Garbha, the subtle body.
Who or what is Adi Yajna?
Ahameva.
Ishvara.
Very good. Okay.
Now, Adi Yagna.
Now the important question is, the rest of the chapter is the answering of the question, what is the significance of remembering God at the time of the death? So Krishna answers all these questions. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. He explains what is Brahman. So Brahman is the consciousness principle, the superlatively big, and that's why this chapter is called Akshara Brahma Yoga. What is Adhyatma? It is the same consciousness which is pervading in the individual is Adhyatma. What is Karma? This whole world, the Samashti Karma. Adi Bhutam, we know, is this perishable world. Adi Daivam is none other than the Hiranyagarbha. Now, we have answered all these questions. Very good. Now, what is Adi Yajna? So, Krishna answers, Adi Yajna Ahameva. I alone am. And there is this beautiful, what is this? Deha Brata Vara. Who's Deha Brata Vara?
Deha Brata Vara is Arjuna.
Arjuna.
We answer that. So we have all the answers. Venkatesh, can you read this for me?
Yes, sir. What is Adi Yajna? Krishna says that he is Adi Yajna. This means Ishvara is Adi Yajna. The Lord resides in everybody. He is called Narayana. Naram means living being. Ayanam means residence. Why is he known as Adi Yajna? He is associated with every action, Yajna. He is the giver of the result, Phalam.
He is the Karma Phala Data. Now, I have selected one verse here. You can see this verse. And whenever a verse is given, by looking at the verse, you should be able to give me the meaning. Everybody except Dr. Aksha can take part and tell me what is the meaning of this verse.
Those who have attained me have
goal of no return.
Is that Sundar?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? You can add. Anybody else would like to add something about this verse?
Karma Phala decides Punarjanma.
Okay.
Mahatmanaha, they will never get Punarjanma.
They will attain me.
Samsiddhim. One way to achieve.
This is, he is talking about Krama Mukti, Brahma Loka, and is going there.
All right.
Jivan Mukti.
Dr. Aksha, can you explain this verse for us? In a way, I want people to be so convinced about each word that they will remember this verse for the rest of their life.
From the Akshara Brahma Yoga,
okay.
the 8th chapter, where we know the 4 Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha and Kama. They are the finite Purusharthas. And we also know that Moksha is the Parama Purushartha. Here in this verse, Lord Krishna is talking about Mahatmanaha, the intelligent people, the devout people, the Jnanis, who know that Parama Purushartha is the main, and they have already attained him. Mam Upetya means they have already attained Lord Krishna. For such people, Punarjanma na bhavanti. There is no Punarjanma. There is no Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. Because those Mahatmanaha know that this samsara is dukkhalayam. It is an abode of misery and ashashvatam. It is ephemeral. So when such people samsiddhim paramam gataha, they have attained moksha. And the gist of this shloka, the verse is, this life, the samsara is like Swamiji says, it is bandhakatvam, atruptikaratvam, and dukkha mishritatvam. So if one has to go beyond this, they have to attain the feet of Lord Krishna, where there is no punarjanma.
Thank you, Dr. Aksha. It is very clear to me, but I've put your slides if you want to add anything else, if you want to tell us from these slides.
From this verse, for the next 7 verses, Lord Krishna is talking about the finite and the infinite goals.
You can explain, yeah.
The first 3 are the finite goals, which is about the world, which is anatma, which is materialistic, and which is about the priyas. And moksha is parama purushartha, which is the shreyas, which is the immortal goal. And the next verses talk about the finite, about the time and space. Even going to Brahma Loka is something finite. Though it looks that there are 4 Chaturyugas and 43 lakhs, 20,000 years and so on. But beyond that, again, one has to come back to this Jiva Loka for rebirth. And so there is finite time and space. And in the next verses, Lord is bringing about the avyakta karana, and then how one has to go to reach some moksha. So the goal should be that God has to be taken as the goal and not the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Raksha.
Thank you, sir.
So this is it. Now, this is a question that Arjuna asks in the beginning of the 3rd chapter. And Venkatesh, can you read this question for me?
Yes, sir. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani ghore mam yojayasi keshava.
My question is, what is Sri Krishna's answer to this? Because it is a very famous verse. How does Sri Krishna begin?
Lokesmin vividhanishta pura prokta maya nagha gnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam.
Okay, other than Sukanya, Rama and Sundar, anybody else can explain this?
Lokesmin vividhanishta.
No, not you.
Yes, yes.
I will ask you to finally explain this.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
This is your verse, other than you.
There are 2 types of...
It has been described that there are 2 types of paths. One is the path of knowledge and one is the path of action.
Okay.
Who understand the path of action, let them continue with the path of action of Karma Yoga. And for those who have understood the path of Jnana Yoga, so it be. Let them continue.
All right. See, as Swamiji explains, there's a difference between Nishta and Sadhana here. Would anybody like to clarify how Swamiji talks about what is Nishta here and what is Sadhana here?
So we can say that both action as well as knowledge both are important. Either of them is not sufficient. One is needed for Yogyata and one is needed for moksha. So just by action you cannot attain liberation, just by renunciation you cannot. Both have their place and both have to be done. So these are the 2 paths, and in the one after the other is that, and the Nishta is you can have Grihastha or the Sannyasa Ashrama, whichever you can take, but still you have to go through Yogyata and then the knowledge.
Good. So Nishta is talking.
There is a choice. There is a choice between Karma Yoga and Sannyasa Yoga, but there is no choice for Jnana Yoga.
Wrong. There is a choice between your lifestyle.
Yeah, as a sannyasi or as a grahastha,
correct.
But there is no choice for Jnana Yoga, which is the ultimate path for moksha.
You have to go through Karma Yoga, get Yogyata, go to Jnana Yoga. Venkatesh, can you explain?
Yes, sir. The background of this shloka is, in the whole of 2nd chapter, Krishna teaches Sankhya Yoga, all the karmas and Jnana Yoga. Then, despite Krishna's teaching, very crystal clear teaching in the previous chapters, Arjuna raises doubts. He manages to raise doubts. Due to his filtered listening, he tries to get Krishna tell him what he wants to listen. That is, give up war and study scriptures. He wants to escape from battlefield. He is asking Krishna, if you feel Jnana Yoga is only means of liberation, then why are you engaging me in this Karma Yoga? The shloka says, Jayasi chet karmanaste, chet buddhi matame. If self-knowledge, mata, is your opinion, according to you, if knowledge is jayasi karmanaha, superior to action, that kim niyojayasi mam, then why do you engage me in ghore karmani, in this cruel war? That is the meaning of this. Continuing in next shloka, he again tells he is confused by the words of Krishna and has to tell clearly, which path he has to take up, Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga. When we go to the next slide, Arjuna is under the wrong impression that he has a choice between the two. Actually, there is no choice between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. There is no question which is better. It makes sense if I ask which pant I have to wear between two or which of the two shirts. But if I ask I have to wear pant or shirt, it looks ridiculous. Shastras prescribe very clearly Jnana Yoga is the only means of liberation. Choice is whether you want moksha or not. If you are a mumukshu, you will have to follow Jnana Yoga. Going further, moksha can be attained only through Jnana Yoga. And if I have to take up Jnana Yoga, I should possess certain basic qualifications. Here the qualifications are purity, maturity, and detachment. And these qualifications can be acquired only through Karma Yoga. So moksha can be attained through Jnana Yoga and qualifications can be acquired by Karma Yoga. In other words, follow Karma Yoga and acquire qualifications or Jnana Yogyata. Follow Jnana Yoga and attain moksha. It is settled that we have only two paths to follow and they are Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Any other yoga like Ashtanga Yoga, Japa Yoga and all types of meditation falls under Karma Yoga. Krishna responds to Arjuna's question in detail in this chapter. From Shloka 3 to 7, he gives introduction and clarity about Karma Yoga. Krishna begins, no doubt you have to follow both yogas, but there are two lifestyles to follow these two yogas. One is Pravritti Marga and the other is Nivritti Marga. Pravritti Marga is for those who are in Grihastha which is full of action, responsibility towards your family, children, society, etc. One can indulge in all these activities without any attachment and perform Pancha Mahayagna and also take up Jnana Yoga, either continuing in Grihastha or taking Sannyasashrama after some time. Nivritti Marga or Sannyasashrama is a life of inaction but without Karma Yoga. A sannyasi is supposed to devote his maximum time to Jnana Yoga along with Sannyasa Vihita Karma like Japa. Though there is a choice between Grihastha and Sannyasashrama, 95 to 99% of people are not made for Sannyasashrama. An unfit sannyasi will bring disrepute to ashrama, but a grihastha can enjoy all the worldly pleasures within the ambit of dharma and pursue Jnana Yoga followed by sannyasi. A Gnani grihastha is superior to an Agnani sannyasi. Hence, Krishna advises Arjuna to be a grihastha and follow both the yogas. He gives his own example of being a grihastha and still follows Jnana Yoga. The next number 3 slide shows what Krishna means when he says, Lokesmin vividha nishtha pura prokta mayanaga jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. Asmin loke, in this world, vividha nishtha, twofold discipline, pura prokta maya, as told by me long back, jnana yogena sankhyanam, jnana yoga for sannyasi, Karma Yogena Yoginam, Karma Yoga for Grihasthas. You may see in the next slides, number 4, reasons Krishna gives next 3 shlokas, in the shlokas 4, 5 and 6, why Karma Yoga has an edge. Shloka 4, by avoiding karma or action, liberation is not guaranteed. You cannot avoid samsara. By avoiding duties and responsibilities, you will not get peace of mind. Shloka 5, avoiding karma or action is only impossible. Every person is guided by his svabhava and his svabhava are governed by guna. Shloka 6 says, not only inactions will not give moksha, not only it is impossible, but it may be a risky proposition and is dangerous. Because when you have nothing to do, your mind will become a devil's workshop. When you try to quieten your mind, all the suppressed desires come to the fore and start fantasizing them. You will be called mithyachari. In Shloka 7, he declares one who controls his sense organs and engages in action without attachment is the best. Krishna's class on Karma Yoga continues and we can see further in the coming shlokas. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for giving us an overview of the first few words. Is Neeta there?
Yes, Anita was there. So,
all right. Now,
sir, I'm there. I'm just reaching.
All right. Just be there.
1 minute.
Now, other than you, anybody can look at this verse and tell me what is the meaning of this question of Arjuna.
What is it? What is it that I do it even when I'm not inclined to do it? What is it that pushes me to action?
Correct. So this is for Dr. Sundar. This will be for Dr. Sundar. The question is, I know what is right and I know what is wrong. What is that which forces me to do the wrong? And what is Sri Krishna? Other than Dr. Sundar, what is the answer that Sri Krishna will give?
Kama eva krodha eva.
Kama esha krodha esha. Kama esha krodha esha. Kama and krodha.
Dr. Sundar, take the next 2-3 verses and explain.
Gunas forces, kama, krodha and gunas, sampanna.
Correct. Dr. Sundar, please.
Yes, sir. So this section figures at the end of the Karma Yoga chapter. And despite getting the entire teaching of Karma Yoga from Krishna, and which appears to be so clear, Arjuna is curious to know why doesn't one take up to Karma Yoga, although there is clarity between what is dharma, adharma, although there are scriptures to explain, although there is a guru to explain. Kena prayuktoyam. So Arjuna wonders if there is an external force which is making us not to follow the righteous path, not to follow Karma Yoga. So papam here is any obstruction to spirituality. Anichinnapi. So as if somebody, although I am not willing, baladeva, somebody is forcefully niyojita, making me do this. So that is the question. And Krishna says, kama esha, krodha esha. So there is talk about singular usage rather than plural, because kama and krodha are two sides of the same coin. Obstructed kama manifests as krodha, and they are caused by rajoguna. And he goes on to explain what are the complications from this. Kama is a maha ashana. It's a great eater. Eater is with reference to the spiritual time, because I go from one want to another, being not fulfilled. And krodha manifests as himsa, that is by, it is referred to as maha papa here. And so Krishna is telling the enemy is not outside, vidhi enam iha. These are the enemies which are within you in this verse. And then he goes to offer a temporary and a permanent solution. These verses basically define how severely, like a mild, moderate, severe grade, the affliction of kama may be, by comparison to the veiling effect of the fire by the smoke, which easily goes away, and the mirror covered by the dust, which easily goes away, and like a moderate level, like smoke which is covering the fire, and at the more severe level, like the womb covering the fetus, where one has to wait for the baby to come out. So here the reference of coverage is of the my Atma Swarupam, which is being covered by Ajnanam, driven by Kama. So this is the classic Avidya Kama Karma cascade. And in the next verse, this is a temporary solution. So he defines that there are 3 bases through which the veiling effect of the Kama happens to cover the Atma Swarupam. So the 3 levels are at the sense organs, the next level mind, and the next level being intellect. So he is offering a temporary solution of trying Indriya Nigraha, Mano Nigraha to control this. But this is a temporary solution because the underlying sense of incompleteness, lack of fulfillment is there. So some or the other time the raga is going to manifest again. So in the final verses, he gives Atma Jnanam as the final solution. In the next verse, I think so.
I think I don't have it here. I have not kept it.
So with Atma Jnanam, the root cause of Kama is removed because I have total fulfillment by abiding in the Atma Swarup.
We have taken a lot of time. I think we will continue next time. Neeta and Vishwas, can we continue for the next week?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely,
Sure.
sir.
Because we run out of time. We'll go slowly because I want you to, we'll do it in the same way. Those which have already been discussed in another class, I will ask you to explain, be in charge, but let everybody brainstorm, and when a verse is given like this, they should be able to know the meaning. shall we?
Sir, one question, one small question. Sorry to interrupt. See, I always had this doubt. It's see, when you are pushed into action, it is not. It may not be because of kama or krodha. It is only maybe you are not willing to do that action, but just to not displease somebody or not to hurt somebody, you may land up doing it. It does not fall in your own krodha or kama. Only to not to displease somebody, you may be pushed into that action.
Yeah.
That is also karma, no? Not wanting to displace is also karma.
Yeah. And that is also born out of avidya. You know, ultimately you have this grandfather, father and son, avidya, kama, karma. You see that triad. That is why they say a jnani, or if you come closer to that, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. So sometimes what happens, as you very rightly said, to please other people, we do so many things. I think part of it is a communication skill, or sometimes we may have to, you know, in Vyavahara, we may have to compromise. But we need to, from a Paramarthika angle, well, this is a very useful formula. Avidya kama karma, avidya kama karma. Because I do not know my true nature, I feel that if I do this, I will get some fulfillment, some peace. And therefore, a karma comes and karma forces me to do karma. So again, it's kama esha krodesha.
Thank you.
Doctor, there is one interesting thing about this shloka.
Go ahead, Doctor. Go ahead, Karthik.
Even Duryodhana asks Krishna the same thing.
Correct.
There is a wonderful thing, a comparison between how Arjuna asks and how Duryodhana asks. So he says, when Janami dharmam nachame pravrittihi, Janami adharmam nachame nivrittihi, kenapi devena hridastitena, yatha niyuktosmi tatha karomi. So I don't know what deva. Deva here is energy, or uncontrolled thoughts, emotions. Of course, by kama krodha. And Krishna does not answer. So I just wanted to factor it.
And Krishna doesn't give an answer, is it?
Yeah, he doesn't give an answer.
I think
it is there in Pandava Gita.
Correct. But I think he's not eligible for the answer.
Correct.
You know, when a person does not have the eligibility, where can you give an answer? So those moments when the teacher has to keep quiet.
Sir, last pada of that shloka, yatha niyuktosi tatha karomi. Is it not Karthik or? Yatha niyuktosi tatha karomi means as you say I will do, but he will never do what Krishna says.
Yatha niyuktosmi alla. Kenapi devena hridastitena. What I don't know what deva is there in my heart. Okay. So I just follow it.
No,
how I follow my heart.
The demon in me is
question actually. It is a what do you call an observation that he makes about himself.
Yes, Dr. Anupama, you were saying something?
Sir, Ullas.
Ullas, go ahead.
Sir, just one another angle is I was listening to one of the talks of Osho, who was answering this or like talking about this topic, in which the disciple kind of asked that I don't want to do the bad thing, and obviously the God does not want to do the bad thing for me. And so, you know, the least intelligent people will answer like maybe there is some Satan or some bad force who is doing that. Then that is a very weak theory, because if the Satan were more powerful than the God, then we should worship that Satan only. So it is not that. Then then basically what he says is that all the laws of nature, they just work how they work. For example, I never want to fall when I'm walking. God does not want me to fall, but yet I sometimes fall and break my leg. Then what is it that is making it happen? So gravity is just playing its role based on our action. Maybe, you know, what we have decided from our free will, the course of action is decided. So if we sow a seed, then all the forces of the nature will make sure that they help grow the tree. If I do something bad, then all the forces of the nature will make sure that, you know, it follows through its path. So it is just that, again, comes back to the same thing, that whatever our vasanas are there and our initial thought at that time happens, then rest of the things just take place after that. So there is nobody in me or externally who is making something evil happen for me. Everything just happens because based on the way they are supposed to happen. Like gravity will always attract that body towards it. So if you use the gravity in the right manner, you can achieve something good. If you don't use it properly, then you will fall down. There is nobody who is acting against you.
True. I know our vasanas have a very strong role, and our vasanas as part of our previous papa and punya, and they have to fructify. And that is why both are at the same level ground. One person falls and breaks a leg, for another person may fall but doesn't break his leg. So there are many things beyond us.
Doing action, whatever it is, whether to please others or whatever, but should we do it according to the dharma? I mean, should we think and do it?
Of course, we should think and do, no?
And that's what.
Yeah.
No, it's not just pleasing something like that, is it?
Yeah, but sometimes, pleasing may also solve certain problems. So you may think on a long run, it may be better to, or long run or in short run, that I would have less headaches if I please that person and I'll be more at peace or that. You have to work out strategies in Vyavahara. Shall we conclude?
Yes, sir.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.